Hello. Thank you very much for joining me today. How are you doing? This popped up today on my Reddit. Europeans ask, Americans answer. Ooh, I'm very excited to go through some of these questions from Europeans. Granted, I'm not part of Gen Z. This was in the Gen Z subreddit. But hey, I don't care. I'm old. I'm a millennial. I don't care. I make the rules on my channel. I'm going to answer these questions whether you like it or not, Gen Zers. Although I am kind of curious what the Gen Z Americans have to say. All right, let's get into it. All right, the top question. Since World War II, the U.S. has been at the forefront of innovation. What is this, like an ad? Was this written by the CIA? And has been responsible for many of humanity's great accomplishments during this period, the moon landing in particular. Well, according to some people, that didn't even happen. But assuming that did happen, it did happen. Does this give you a sense of pride, or is it not that important from your perspectives? A sense of pride. I think the moon landing is a sense of pride, which, by the way, the moon landing conspiracy, like that it didn't happen, since I brought that up, I feel like I have to address it a little bit now. I actually was totally open to the idea that it was faked, because that is absolutely something America would have done during that period. But if you just look at the evidence, it's pretty clear it did happen. But anyway, does it give you a sense of pride? The moon landing, I would say, in a way, does. Innovations, humanity's greatest accomplishments. A lot of what comes out of America, or, in the past came out of America, I don't really view as like American innovation. I view it more as just like humanity's innovation, if that makes sense. Especially maybe that's because so much, America's a young country and there's so much immigration and stuff that, the people working on this tech are from all over the world that come to America to work on it. America just happens to be the hub of funding for that type of tech in Silicon Valley. So, do I have pride in that? I guess a little bit, but it's kind of waning in recent years. Recent innovations have felt a lot more dystopian. Like, I would say up until, I'm old enough, once again, to remember Steve Jobs, presenting the original iPhone. And that time period up until then, with the advent of computers, Microsoft, Apple coming out with, the personal computer, gaming systems were getting way, way, way better every couple of years. I'm talking, it was amazing. And that wasn't just America, Nintendo, Japanese country, or Japanese brand. But, back then, it was actually pretty amazing seeing the progress of, oh my God, everybody has a computer in their home now. And now, the internet, it's getting faster and faster and faster and faster, way faster. You can stream video online now. Wow, that's amazing, guys. Look at what we're doing. And everybody has their own computer. Like, imagine what we can all do with the tools in our own homes, like these powerful computers in our own homes. It's pretty amazing. That's all pretty amazing. Like I keep saying, I think I've said pretty amazing like 7 times now. I need to stop. But my point is, when did the iPhone come out? Like 2005, 2006? Since then, it's like felt a little more dystopian. Like, what kind of innovations? It's been a long time. It's kind of sad, to be honest. It's been almost 20 years now. And the innovations have really, it's gone from like, let's empower everybody by, giving them these tools, a computer in their home, now a computer in their pocket, to like, okay, everybody's got a computer in their pocket. How do we extract as much value from them as possible? So I would say I have some pride in like old innovations, but as of the last 20 years, not so much. Not so much. I don't know. I'm trying to think what has been invented more recently that's like something to be proud of. I don't know. I mean, I guess some things. I guess. I'm not sure why this is the top reply. I would say I'm proud of my national identity. Yes. That wasn't really the question. But anyway, I'm not going to like roast the people replying. Sorry. Sorry. Let's move on. All right. The next highest question is, are we really that different? You know, I have done a lot of research with these channels, just by their very nature of reacting to a lot of things from Europe and around the world. And I would say overall, I think I have kind of like a good perspective on this, and I would say um not really, not really that different, but definitely are different. Like the cultures are different, but not that different. No. This guy says yes. This guy says no. That about sums it up. This is a kind of a hilarious question to me. It's not a funny question, but I need to explain that. I feel like it's hilarious because it makes me realize how old I am. Like the Iraq War, that wasn't taught when I was in school. That was happening. You know what I mean? Like that was we were. It started while I was in school. There was nothing to be taught. It was happening. um, what were you taught about the Iraq War in school? How was it portrayed? I mean, I guess I can say I was in, like I said, I was in school when it started. It's kind of interesting, the Iraq War in particular. That was a whole, mostly when people talk about the wars, in the Middle East over here, it's like the war on terrorism. It's the war in the Middle East. It was a very messy war. How was it portrayed? It was portrayed that this was a new kind of war. It was very difficult to identify the enemies, that the enemies are, it's not a nation state, any one nation state in particular. It's these, groups, these militias, these factions that are spread through different nations, nation states, and they don't have uniforms. It's a new kind of war. And it's hard to distinguish them from civilians, which makes it very difficult to fight. Man, I mean, I was in school when 9/11 happened, so I can say at that point, I think I think when something like that happens, the country becomes very united and also a little bit irrational. A little bit like, you know, there's like blood in the eyes. Like we need to avenge the people that were killed. And so, initially it was like, that's what we're doing. This was a horrible attack against us, and we are going to find the people that did it and take them down. Iraq in particular, it was very confusing at the time. Nobody, of course, in hindsight now you say, oh, Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction. But when they're saying that on the news back in the day, as it's happening, you have no way of knowing that. You know what I mean? I'm not over here in, at the time I didn't live in Indiana, but I'm not over here in America like, no, they don't. But there were protests against it, I feel like ever since, the hippie movement and, Vietnam and all that, There's definitely a anti-war culture, a faction of the U.S. that has that culture where it's just like anti-war, and so yeah, I guess that's how it was portrayed. I don't know. That answer was about as confusing as the situation was, so that makes sense. I wasn't taught about it in school. The most recent event school went over for me in the U.S. was civil rights movement, and that was quite brief. Okay, all right. It's weird reading other people's comments. It's interesting, I'll admit. Like the civil rights movement wasn't a brief conversation when I was in school. That was a very large topic, but there's a lot of different schools in America. So we apparently went to different schools. Oh, like you can see this dude right here. What state did you go to school in? I grew up in Virginia, and we definitely had a full unit for the civil rights movement. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like a small, oh yeah, by the way, the civil rights movement, happened. Okay, on to the next section. No, it wasn't like that. What are your favorite and least favorite things about us Europeans? Edit the fact that none of y'all listed Eurovision. It's interesting that a European said y'all, I just realized. Does any country in Europe say y'all? I didn't know that. Anyway, none of y'all listed Eurovision, and how effing weird we are under favorite things is criminal. I think Eurovision is like the best kept secret in the world from America. I had never heard of it, which is wild, isn't it? That is a huge, huge event, huge show in Europe and like across the world. But over here in America, never even heard it up until, I started reacting to stuff from Europe. Anyway, favorite things about us Europeans. Oh man, that's kind of tough because there's such a wide variety of cultures and stuff in Europe. Favorite things about Europeans overall? I would say I really think that the historical, like architecture and stuff is really amazing and something that doesn't exist over here in America. And so anytime you see a castle over there, in Europe, it's like, wow, that is really cool. That is really cool. Like, I just wish there was things like that over here in America in the meat space that we could go look at and be like, damn, that's from a whole different time period. And then as far as like the overall culture, I feel like there's less of a celebrity culture over there in Europe in general, which I've never been a fan of like celebrity culture. In fact, I don't even know almost any celebrities, which I'm kind of proud of. I mean, that's mostly just because my memory is horrible, but that's at least like a benefit. I feel like I am not in any way, like I don't take part in celebrity culture because my brain doesn't even let me remember celebrities, so I can't. But I think it's stupid anyway to idolize pretty much anybody. So I think that's cool that type of culture you guys aren't, obsessed with celebrities and stuff, I don't think. Unless they're soccer players or football players, then I think y'all do. There are some of you guys that do love Messi, don't lie. Messi is pretty cool. And Ronaldo. But overall, it's a little bit less of a materialistic culture. And I don't know if this counts as like favorite things about Europeans, but I'm very jealous of your guys' healthcare systems in general. Even though I've come to learn that no healthcare system is perfect around the world, but damn, America sucks. So I'm very jealous. And I guess that is something that you guys can be proud of because you guys are the ones that, elected the people to implement that system and demanded it. Over here in America, the people just, you can't get it together on that front. Least favorite things? Least favorite, I guess if I'm honest, a lot of times people just, making these videos and stuff, I've got thousands of comments that are just like calling me a stupid like American that oh, us Europeans hate Americans, like you guys are idiots and we hate you. And that whole thing, like I kind of get it on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like obviously that doesn't feel good to read as an American. So I guess that's my least favorite thing. Oh, this guy pointed out like the bike pass bike culture. That's a cool thing. I love riding a bicycle. So I would really enjoy if there was more of a bicycle culture over here in America. That's a good point. Since this is a topic that always comes up when we do this Q&A thing the other way around, how are you guys taught about the Nazis in school? Ooh. Probably exactly how you would imagine, I guess. I guess the brief overview is that, like, Hitler was a very charismatic leader, very good at public speaking. It's kind of like a typical cult leader type of dude. And he wrote Mein Kampf in jail after failing to get into art school. And he was an angry man. And somehow that book, like, that's kind of a part of the puzzle I'd like to know more about is, how did Mein Kampf get distributed so well? But, it resonated with a country that was, the people were angry and upset about World War I. And, the way things were going, kind of, and Hitler swooped in and, we're taught that Nazis were very evil, basically, kind of black and white. I'm not going to go into every detail of, like, any history lesson we learned, but, pretty much exactly what you would imagine, I think, if that's what you would imagine. And then, Japan came along and decided to bomb Pearl Harbor, or attack Pearl Harbor. And that's taught as being the real, the point where America said, okay, we got to get involved. And then, yeah, Hitler lost. I've seen a video on YouTube in which a guy puts a glass of water into a microwave to heat it up for tea. You guys actually do that? No, we just don't drink tea. But actually, my wife is sick, and I did make her a cup of tea yesterday. And yes, indeed, I heated the water up in the microwave. Actually, I do need to amend that statement that we don't drink tea. We do drink tea over here at least in the southern and midwestern United States, but it is iced tea and has a lot of sugar in it. Is it unusual to walk places instead of driving? If you live like where I do in the suburbs, that would be impossible. Or totally impractical, at least. You can't walk 8 miles to go to the grocery store. And then back. Now, if you live in the heart of New York City, sure, you can get by. You probably don't own a car. But also, that costs a lot of money to live in the heart of New York City. And then, some other cities. New York City is one of the few American cities with a decent public transport system. There's a couple others. Apart from that, I would say, I mean, for instance, I don't know anybody without a driver's license that is old enough to have one. So I guess that's all you need to hear, probably. Would you be able to get by without a driver's license? Not if you live here in Indiana. Not really. I've heard the public transport system isn't good. Is that true? Well, you kind of have to realize that America is a gigantic country, so there is no public transport system to go from like around America. That's not even that's not a thing at all. Uh, so when you talk about public transport system, you're talking about within a city, and I guess like I said, for the most part, it's garbage. So yes, it's true. Why do you guys, generally speaking, not calling out Gen Z specifically, put up with the car-centric design of your cities? um, I think there's a little bit of naivete in that question. No, no offense or anything, but it's just like because of network effects and infrastructure, changing changing it now would be, I mean, an unbelievable type of overhaul to the entire country. Uh, for the foreseeable future, we're kind of stuck with it, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic. Maybe I'm just too old now and I'm just filled with pessimism. Like, oh, there's no way we can make a better future for ourselves. Of course we can't. But, man, to be frank, the car-centric design works, sort of. Like, it works pretty well. It's not good for the environment, and it's not the healthiest way of living. Like, you're not riding your bicycles and you're not walking around. But I guess what I mean is the reason people put up with it is because people like it over here in America for the most part. You know what I mean? No one is clamoring, or not very many people are clamoring, we need, less car-centric design. You know, that's not like a big uprising over here. So I'd say those two factors are the factors. One, it would be a major overhaul and undertaking to redesign the cities. And two, people don't want it redesigned. Like, they're happy with their cars. Although, man, what a freaking nightmare it is driving a car through a city here in America and finding parking. Ugh. I don't know. If I lived in the city, I would probably feel more strongly against it, because finding parking in an American city is like the worst. Americans, do you think that political extremism is rising as drastically as is portrayed in the media? No. Political extremism. If anything, I've felt a political extremism, thank God, like going down over the last few years. Which people might be like, what? How can you say that? But, I mean, compared to like during COVID and stuff, the whole world went a little bit crazy, didn't it? Especially, and it kind of made sense. So there was a lot of clashing ideologies on what type of, when does, the collective, what's good for the collective, override your freedom as an individual? That's a pretty fundamental, difficult question. And so, man, there was a lot of political fieriness during that period. Am I saying that there's not? I guess I think of political extremism as being a little bit different than political division. The country is extremely divided. But I wouldn't really say that either side is super extreme in the average, if that makes sense. In other words, the people in the middle, although once again, post-COVID, I do thankfully see a little bit more people gravitating back toward the middle. But for the most part, it's extremely divided. But it's not like I don't think that there's gonna be like tyranny here in America anytime soon. Hopefully. Did that make sense? I think I'm done, folks. Holy crap, 25 minutes. Yeah, I'm done. That was interesting. Man, some spicy topics there. Hopefully I didn't say anything too stupid or anything, but hey, that's the risk. That's the risk I take by even treading on some of these topics. So, it is what it is. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. In fact, I'll probably do a part 2 to this, go through some more questions just because it's kind of fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow.